So, welcome to my presentation, Social Media in Reality. So I'm going to be going over some success stories, a few failures, and just overall a lot of tips, tricks that I've learned over the years. So, I'm going to set the scene. So this is just general social media at the moment. So we've got 82.8% of the UK are actually active on socials. So it is taking over the world and we are going to have to accept it. 89% of marketers actually say that video content is their most successful form of content, which, I mean, I feel like at the moment this is obvious, but it's the truth. And 80% of social media users actually find new products on social media, which I think that's huge. So there's so many people on social media at the moment that could literally discover your product or service just because they're on there. But what's occurring with specific platforms? So I'm going to look at Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, purely because Facebook and Instagram are still two of the most used social media platforms out there, and LinkedIn is the most professional used platform at the moment still. So you have to move you a little bit. 70% of Facebook users actually follow at least one business page. So I think we get into this thing on Facebook that people only use it just for friends, family, see what's going on, but people are still following business pages on there. And then the huge one, nearly 1.8 billion people are using Facebook groups each month. So I think a lot of people overlook the groups. They're still there, they're very much active. And I think it's it's like an untapped market, I think, for a lot of businesses. People don't actually realise that they're so useful. In terms of Instagram, so 130 million users are on Instagram shopping. They're tapping on ads. So for e-commerce business, I just think it makes so much sense to make sure that you've got your shop set up on there and that you're tagging in products in posts, because there's so many people that actually are going to your website shopping just purely from Instagram alone. And 81% of people use Instagram to research products and services. That's massive in my head, because I think a lot of people know we turn to Google, we research brands up, we're looking at Google for answers, but people are actually now verifying your business, your service on Instagram alone. So I think it makes sense to make sure you've got a presence on there, to make sure it's up to date, and that you're just putting your best foot forward on there, you're getting yourself out there on there. And finally, for LinkedIn, so over the last year, 55% increase in user activity. So whether that's because people are looking for jobs more, or I've noticed in the last few years, there's been a lot more sort of personal approach. There's a personal approach on LinkedIn. People are sharing more insight into them personally, whether it's achievements or backstories or sort of adversity they've overcome, and then sort of link it into business some way. So whether it's just because it's becoming a bit more social. And then the huge one for me is that 4 out of 5 LinkedIn users actually influence business decisions. That's massive. I think if that reason alone should be why your business should be on LinkedIn when you're trying to make connections within the industry, when you want to get in front of people that are actually going to be able to make a decision on whether to use your product or service. I think LinkedIn's just a big one. So what do we do with all that? That's a lot of information. That's a lot of people. So what do we do? Well, I'm going to talk about a few success stories. So in terms of, these are just, I mean, we've had a lot of success stories at Strategy Plus, but the few that stand out to me, I'm going to go over organic community growth, paid campaign ads, staggering engagement rates, and user-generated content where we found success with those. So first up, organic community growth. So in terms of how we've seen that occur, we've had an increase in followers, increase in all stats, whether that's impressions, reach, engagement rates. And the where I've put that down to is these 3 main points. So behind the curtain, so just giving people an idea of your business behind the scenes, just, you know, sharing more about the people at the brand, the people behind the business, just a little bit of a peek and insight into what's actually going on in your day-to-day, whether it's meetings, events, whatever it might be. I just think, you know, this term is used a lot in social media, but people do like people. So that's a huge one. Asking your audience, we've found such success actually with a few different clients now with engaging the audience more and having their voice heard. I think they like that. I mean, that is really the point of social media. It's connecting people, whether it's about business or people to people, whatever. It's, you know, you're involving people, you want their input, whether that's been on polls, direct, just literally sharing questionnaires, asking people to comment with feedback. It's kind of boosted, it's absolutely like boosted and changed the game really for a lot of our clients in terms of we see the same sort of names cropping up, they're sharing the post, so it's just getting out to a wider and wider audience simply just by asking for their feedback, their input. People have actually created like PDF guides just simply based on poll answers that we've had on LinkedIn. And then finally, shareable content. So something, whether it's more meme-like, something that's funny, or something that's topical. I know a couple of our clients like to report a lot on what's going on in the industry because they sort of want to be sort of a thought leader and somebody that's very they share the news kind of thing, and that's where people will find out what's going on in the industry. So simply by just sharing that kind of content, it's meant that engagement's gone up. People are interested, people are going to repost that because it's relevant to them and the industry. So that's how we've kind of had success with organic community growth. Paid campaigns. Now, this could be a whole presentation in itself, but I'm just going to look at some shopping ads and then lead gen ads that we've kind of done. So for shopping ads, we've seen huge success for e-commerce business. Literally, once we took over, it showed that I think revenue went from about 20,000 to 80,000 literally in a few weeks of taking over again. And I think that's down to a number of things. Storefront ads are lovely. As long as you've got your Facebook or Instagram shop set up right, storefront ads are perfect for that. It's a way you can use a lovely image, a video, and then you can literally specifically choose products that are specific to that ad that you want to put up, and it leads people directly to your website to shop. So it makes sense completely. You can use catalog sets to sort of categorize all the products that you want to talk about. So whether it's for a Christmas campaign, it's perfect. And then I also think audience size has been a big reason it's gone well. I think I'll get into this a little bit later on in terms of two specific audiences, but audience size is huge. You don't want to sort of alienate. You don't want to be too fixated on the perfect person. You need to let Facebook do some work. So I think when we got the audience size right, it's kind of taken off for their shopping ads. And then in terms of lead gen, specifically lead forms, we've found a lot of success with. Let me move me. So we've had there's different types of lead forms that you can use, but we found a lot of success with higher intent and more volume forms. So more volume, we just want as many people as possible to fill in a form. And that has worked really great for some businesses that have got the time to then go through all of these and actually qualify how decent they are. And that's been perfect for certain clients. Other clients where it's sort of it's more of a like one-man band kind of business, the higher intent, so people that are more likely to actually get business off the back of filling this form in. We've found that's worked because you go from more volume that's maybe got 70 form fills in a week to maybe just 10 form fills with high intent, but the quality's there. They've taken more time to fill out a more specific form. So I think we've actually found success in both, but I really do feel like the forms leads on ads are a brilliant way to just, grow, to be honest, just growing your email database, being able to get in touch with a new lot of clients. They've worked really well for us in terms of paid ads and haven't been too expensive either in a lot of cases. Staggering engagement, and I mean staggering. So just to put it into perspective, I know specifically like looking at LinkedIn, a high engagement rate is seen at 3%. Well, since we've really honed in on certain brands on LinkedIn specifically at the moment, we've seen engagement rates of over 40% on a post. We've even seen, I know for 1 month for a client, the average engagement rate was over 20% still across the month. So what I put that down to are these few things. So reposts, simply reposting anything that you've been tagged in, encouraging people to repost your content. It's just, obviously, you're just reaching a bigger audience that way. Video, obviously, how many times can we talk about video? But video content, because people are stopping, they're watching, and obviously all these social media platforms actually are looking into how long people are watching your videos for. So I think the more video, the better. Carousel posts are amazing because people have to stop and click through these posts, and all of these clicks are counting as engagements. So I think as long as your carousels are captivating and it makes people want to click through, they're amazing to increase your engagement. And that's as well, same on Instagram and Facebook, it does the exact same thing. People having to swipe through your carousels, it's all adding to the engagement rate. Tagging is a huge thing. Specifically, I would say Instagram and LinkedIn, we've seen the most success with tagging, whether it's products, people, different businesses you've worked with. They're more likely to see it, repost it, like, comment, therefore adding to your engagement. And that's how we've had great success, really, with a lot of, like for a mobility brand specifically, tagging in their products, because there's always going to be other brands that are so active on social media and they want to comment, and you're giving them free content, so of course they're going to repost it. And then finally, I've mentioned polls. I think polls are great because it means people can have a voice but also fly under the radar. So, they're not committing to commenting on something with their name, their face next to it. They can just vote in this poll and have their say, move on, and it's giving you more engagement. We've literally had hundreds of votes on polls for certain clients. So it makes sense. And then finally, user-generated content. So there's a couple of clients that like sort of stick out to me in this. We have a bin bag client, and we also have a paving materials client. They're quite a big brand, really, but specifically for this one product, it's sort of paving solutions, materials. So the way that we've kind of had success with that, we've had gifting opportunities, so working with micro influencers, sending products and asking for feedback. That's been an amazing way of getting photos, videos, new posts out there. And they're sort of doing the hard work for you. You get to repost that then. Similarly, collabs. So as I mentioned, so this pavement client, so I know they've set up times where they've provided the products, and then they've worked with another landscaping business that they found on Instagram, and we've videoed it. We've got social media posts out of it. It's worked really nicely, actually, in a collab form. And then reposts. So specifically for the paving client, I know when we first started, we had a couple of posts that we've been tagged in where people had used their products. But now, I mean, literally most of the posts that are going out are reposts of people's reels, photos of finished products, landscaping companies. And I think that's down to a lot of, the more people see that happening and see that, the products, the brand are sharing this, the more people want to get involved in that. So we've had a lot of different companies share a whole sort of process reel of using the product. And we've been able to share that on our feed then, and it looks amazing. And you kind of see the same names crop up, and then you'll occasionally see a new name crop up that have shared a post for you, and you think, okay, people are catching on to this. So user-generated content, I mean, it's amazing. A lot of the time it doesn't cost a lot, especially if it is in collab form. Yeah, it's a brilliant way to get your name out there and encourage more people to use your product. So just to humble myself, we have had a few issues along the way. As I mentioned, 2 specific audiences on social media, that has really, that's been a killer sometimes with specific ads. Sometimes clients kind of come to us and they have a real clear idea of who their audience is, who their customer is. And they tell us the postcodes that they're in. and we've had to use postcodes to target these people. And against better judgment and, you know, trying to advise, you know, we go along. Facebook seemed to be okay with it when I've done this in the past. But then in the reality of it, when we've done it, we've had a week or two with next to no results from this. So I think being too specific, you're kind of avoiding a huge target out there. Facebook is supposed to be clever enough now to actually figure out who is your audience, who is your customer. So looking at location, I think having a wider location, it really doesn't hurt with Facebook. It doesn't hurt at all with Meta in general. Going on to LinkedIn versus Facebook ads. Again, a bit of a told you so moment. I had a client that was really successful on LinkedIn organically. So therefore they thought, I'm going to be really successful on LinkedIn with ads. We set the ad up. I'd explained to them, they only had quite a small budget, and I explained to them, like, LinkedIn is more expensive. You may not get the results you're looking for, but you know, they were determined. So we were determined. We did it. Within about 4 or 5 days, they hadn't had one form fill out. We tweaked the audience, we tweaked the artwork. For whatever reason, it just wasn't resonating on LinkedIn whatsoever. So we went over to Facebook, and literally, I think within 2 weeks, we had about 40 form fills. It was about £1.10, I think, per form fill. And they were absolutely bowled over, and they've actually got business. We're talking about, this is a business that works in qualifications and memberships. So, you know, the profit on that was huge, and we've stuck with Facebook ever since. So there was a little bit of a I told you so moment, but sometimes I think people, you know, they need to see it for themselves. And then finally, competitions. This one, I struggled with putting this on here because we have had some real success with competitions. You know, I know previously we've had a competition that's led to over 1,000 new followers, but we've also had competitions that just haven't quite landed well. I put this down to a couple of things. I think posting it at certain times, I think we did it around Christmas, and I just think the market was too flooded with all things Christmas. I think it kind of just didn't quite hit the mark. I think, secondly, the prize. I think you need to know your audience and what they want. I'm pretty sure it was like a Fortnum & Mason hamper that we were putting on, and it was lovely, but clearly the audience just weren't that interested in a Fortnum & Mason hamper. Finally, I think the big thing that probably I think this was the main thing, if I'm honest, where it went wrong, is asking people to do too much to enter the competition. I really do. I think the client, you know, they had to fork out for this hamper. I understand they wanted a lot from it. They wanted big results. They wanted a lot of results. But I think in that we've just alienated so many people. You know, we're asking to like, comment, tag, follow this person, follow that person, add it to your story. Like, literally the list goes on. It was crazy, really. So looking back, I can see why it didn't work. And you learn from that. And I think going forward, it's just having a bit more integrity with saying, I think this is what we need to do. We can't be asking too much of people. So that was a learn for me as well as them. But we don't like to dwell. So moving on. I'm just going to cover a few tips and where I think these social media platforms really thrive. So Facebook, as I've mentioned, paid ads, it's cheaper. I think you can be a lot more specific with the targeting on Meta, on Facebook specifically as well. Obviously across Meta, the ads do well on Instagram as well. But when I look at the results, Facebook seem to just throw up the most reach, impressions, and click-throughs. And posting in groups. I really think that's a thing. Even for me, I think with like my clients now, I think that's something that we actually could look into more with certain clients, really honing in on the groups because there's so many people using them. But Instagram, Reels, I mean, Reels are everywhere now, but Instagram is still sort of like the home of these Reels and short form content. And the way we do that is jumping on trends. In the past, we've kind of probably steered people away from jumping on trends because obviously it's just a much more saturated market. But on Instagram, you actually get rewarded for jumping on trends, for using trending audio. Your post is more likely to come up on Instagram Explore. So you're going to get a bigger audience. People are going to see you that haven't seen you before. And then keywords. So looking into Instagram more, they actually said in your captions, using specific keywords that are relevant to whatever you're posting, whether it's a photo, carousel, reel, you're more likely to have a bigger audience because you're going to come up on Explore when people are searching things. I think you have to be subtle. You don't want to just, here is a ring, this is this, and, word for word, what is in this video. But I think don't be too ambiguous with captions, sort of actually talk about what you're sharing. And finally, LinkedIn, I think people are going to thrive with the community aspect of it. Honestly, for me personally, I've seen the biggest community growth through LinkedIn for brands. People seem really sort of active on there and like they really want to be on there, rather than I feel like with Instagram and Facebook, you really have to sort of win people over. Whereas with LinkedIn, people just seem more willing to get involved in what you're sharing. Connections is huge, always. I think whether you've got one person at the business that's dedicated to growing the connections on LinkedIn, but I think somebody should be doing that at the business, growing connections, people that are relevant to your business. And finally, newsletters. Newsletters was a more recent feature in the last couple of years or so. This is a lovely way just basically to keep people up to date with what's going on in the business, whether it's giving updates on what's actually going on or, genuine repurposing blogs from the website. But it's a place that people can actually subscribe to. So it's as well as having your followers, people can come to LinkedIn newsletter, subscribe to it, and every time you upload, they get notified on it. So it's just it's just an extra form of content for them and engagement for you. So that's overall where I think people can sort of thrive in them. And then just some very quick and easy wins to finish off. So we've got optimum posting times. Now, these differ from place to place, but generally speaking, this is kind of the most common thing that I've seen. For Facebook, this is we're talking about at the moment. So always sort of midweek, we've got 2 optimum times, 9 till 11, 1 till 3. You should just be posting in these times. It's when people are active. It doesn't make sense really to be sharing too much at the weekend when people are off doing things. Join groups. How many times can I talk about groups? Join the groups. Create a group. We've actually done that ourselves on behalf of the Jewelry Quarter. We've created a group and then it kind of ends up running itself. People are in there and active. And that's, I think that's it's just a lovely addition to Facebook. It's quick, it's free, it's easy. Optimize your about section. This is another big one. Similar to Instagram with the captions, for Facebook, make sure your about section is up to date and make sure it talks about what you actually do rather than being too fluffy and ambiguous with your company. Actually talk about what you do, because when people are then searching in Facebook, your page is more likely to appear. And finally, event pages. Facebook events are still huge, whether it's like a networking event or, a conference, whatever it is, put it on Facebook, get it out there. And I think it's another way, like I said, people are going to reach it in the search bar more. You just increase that reach, increase the audience. Event pages are a brilliant way of doing that. Instagram, again, sort of midweek, we've got 3 optimum times. People like to scroll on an evening, as we know, guilty for Instagram. Update the links in the bio regularly. So whether you use like an external source, sort of like Linktree, where I know you can make it look really pretty on Linktree with multiple links, but Instagram actually just let you upload multiple links now. I mean, back in the day, it was one and done, and that was it. But you can have multiple links. So make sure that they're updated with things that are going on in the business, whether it's a new blog or an event, because there's nothing worse than sort of being in the caption, head to the link in our bio, and there is no clear link of what you're talking about. Stories, pretty obvious, but it's just a quick, easy thing to do. Share your posts, share external links to your website, to whatever you're talking about, gain feedback from there, from posts, reactions. I mean, there's all sorts you can do on stories now, but it's I think sometimes it's overlooked for businesses. I know it's people use that on a personal level, but I think for businesses, stories can be overlooked. So don't forget about your stories. And then captivate with your caption. Likewise, if using keywords in the bio, I think also hashtags are a big thing. Instagram sort of say, well, they do say 3 to 6 hashtags is sort of the optimum amount. I know at one point it was like flood them with the maximum 30 hashtags. We're not doing that anymore. 3 to 6. It means you can be a bit more specific with the hashtags. Make sure there's an audience for them, but don't be too sort of vague with your hashtags. Be specific. You're more likely to reach your audience that way. And then finally for LinkedIn, very similar to sort of Facebook, Instagram, so similar times to post. But some big wins, as well as easy on Instagram, is inviting your connections to follow your page. I know that's something we preach so much here now at Strategy Plus. Anyone that's on LinkedIn, invite your connections to follow your company page, which kind of coincides with, having a dedicated person who's connecting with new people. Go and invite them to follow your page. You have 250 credits a month. As soon as somebody accepts, you get a credit back. We've seen real success and real growth in company pages, specifically just from doing this alone. You can also follow relevant company pages. So again, in the last few years, LinkedIn sort of introduced a company page being able to follow another company page. It's a good way, just I think, to keep up with what's going on in the market, like your competitors as well, industry news. It's a good way to boost, obviously, your following, but also just so you know what's going on around you. And then finally, get team members involved. So this is, I think, something that team members can often be reluctant about, but it's such an easy, quick and free way to boost your posts, whether it's them reposting it, commenting on it, but get your team members involved as well. It's just, as soon as they're boosting the posts, it's going to reach more people regardless. So force them. So with that, thank you for listening to my presentation, and any questions?
Yes, I'm
All
just
the unmutes.
I'm just trying to unmute. Sorry. Thanks. There was loads in there.
There was loads.
I think you pretty much covered it all, but just tried to reiterate. I was thinking about business to business in Facebook. I've always probably been one of those guilty ones, thinking that that LinkedIn is probably the best way of doing it. And that's probably because in LinkedIn, you can target people based on job title, company size, all that kind of stuff. But the targeting in Facebook is a little bit more fuzzy. So I didn't think it would work, but I know for a fact it does. Have you got any examples? I know one, I think it was a finance company that's recently business to business finance that's worked well. But what are your thoughts with B2B services and products advertising in Facebook or Meta, Instagram?
Oh, absolutely. I think the thing with Facebook as well, it's so much more affordable. We've seen that, and that's whether that is B2C or B2B. These lead gen forms, I think, really have opened up Facebook advertising in terms of business to business for us. We've seen it across a few now, like you say, with the finance company. And that is specifically looking for other businesses who are interested in finance, loans, whatever it is. We've seen an influx of people come in. I think as long as you're using these high intent lead forms, I think that's better than just having any old person sort of, throw their name in the hat. I think as long as you're being quite specific, you're looking for people high intention of actually converting this. I think it's a much cheaper way of doing it. And I think it just goes to show that people are on Facebook. I know, Dan, we've been shocked. We're thinking who would actually want to fill in this form, but there's people doing it, and there's people getting, people getting sales out of that. So yeah, I don't think overlooking Facebook, I wouldn't do it. And I think if you're looking for an affordable approach, I think it's a good segue into like Facebook advertising, social media advertising, rather than going straight in with LinkedIn that can be quite expensive and time consuming, I would say. I think Facebook is a good place to sort of.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm a massive advocate for Google Ads, and you will always get business out of Google Ads. But yeah, in one particular case, I know Facebook was creating leads at sort of 10% of the cost of Google Ads. Now, I think the conversion rate of those, we've still got to wait, big enough data on those. The conversion rate will be less, but it's not 1 in 10 less sort of thing. So, I mean, that really surprised me. I was thinking also about the targeting. You touched on it about not being too specific, and I think that it's slightly changed. Is that, I don't know, it's like with machine learning, I think it's changed with Google and what have you. So I think it's less you telling the system who to target, and rather than just creating the content, the assets, the captions, and then with a bit of guidance with the profiling, but from that they can just find people, the right
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, exactly. I think we've used it for a couple now where they call it Advantage Plus on Facebook, well, on Meta advertising. And yeah, they basically go, there's so many options I've noticed now where they're already ticked for this Advantage Plus, where basically they just go and use AI and they go and find more people like the audience that you've already got or the people that you're already trying to target. Likewise with captions, you put in your description, your caption, and they've already thrown up 5 other options of different versions of that for them to use it, and they're going to test against all these different captions against your audience to see which works best. So Facebook, they are doing a lot of the work with you. I would just say it's important to just keep an eye on it to make sure they're not sort of taking over, and you are still obviously sending the message you want and reaching the people you want. But yeah, supposedly they're meant to be clever enough now to be doing a lot of the hard work for you.
And I've got to ask a question. I'm sorry, I'm asking all the questions here, but so I mentioned AI and machine learning with the platforms that have got much better, Google, Facebook, and all the rest of them. But what about is there any kind of AI that you use to help create the content or come up with hashtags, or for all the business people out there or social media managers out there that are struggling with 1,000 things to do? What AI tools could you advise on?
ChatGPT is not that scary, is what I would say. That realistically, that has helped me so much. It's helped me actually. I feel like I can do the simple things quicker and then use a lot more time on focusing on the strategy side of things, I would say, now with social media, thanks to things like ChatGPT. I think as long as you're using the prompts properly, and you're being specific, and you're telling it, act like a digital marketing executive, act like a digital marketing manager, act like a business owner, whatever it is, these prompts that you're using, and it can create a whole schedule. It can literally create a whole schedule for you of posting. It can come up with campaign ideas, and it just throws, even if they're not all amazing, I think it just throws these ideas back to me that makes me then think, oh, well, I can do this off the back of it. So it's really not that scary. It's really not that difficult to use, I think, once you get to grips with it. And it can really sort of give you some ideas, especially with just content ideas, honestly, just engaging content ideas. I think it's been a brilliant tool, actually. I'm all for it.
Yeah, so I think it's a good for idea generation, but it still takes you to be able to create
Yeah, absolutely.
and execute it well, and know the difference between a good idea and a bad idea. I think that's where the expertise comes in now. So thankfully that saves you a bit of time. Any other questions? Oh, we've got a hand up.
Being polite for once. Would you, is there a difference in engagement between setting up sort of your ads sort of in your Meta and then paying for boosts? Is there a significant difference, would you say? Are you penalized for boosting? Is there, anything like that?
So when we've done boosts in the past, I know we had a client previously that created an app, and they were boosting a lot of their posts. And to be honest, it was amazing. Like the impressions and reach in terms of that, it really went huge, and it was quite cheap to boost. The trouble was who we were boosting it to. You can't be specific with the boosts. That's the problem. We would always look to go into Ads Manager and go into more specific targeting, just because I think for reach, for how quick it is, how easy it is. Yes, a boosted post, brilliant, very cheap, get it out there to as many people as possible. But if you actually want real results, I would say, and you want to like grow a genuine community or get genuine sales, whatever it is that you're looking for, Yeah, I think being specific in Ads Manager, which, you know, it can be, it's a minefield sometimes, Ads Manager. I mean, they're changing it all the time, so I'm having to, you know, keep up with it myself. But I think, yeah, I would say for real results, you'd rather be in the back end, you'd rather be an Ads Manager. But I think, you know, as a business owner just wanting to get the name out there, I think there's no harm at all in boosting a post.
I think if I butt in, I think if you can obviously bear in mind that Facebook and Instagram are money-making machines, and they must realize that most people, if they go into Ads Manager, will probably have a stroke.
Yeah.
So they've
I
just thought Boost is an easy way for people to spend money with us. That is all it is. And obviously easy is not always best. So it is just a way that they're going to get people to spend money with them and not really spend too much time in executing it properly.
Yeah, I would say I do remember actually speaking about the client with the app. I remember they came to us, they were like, this video, it's got over 1 million views because they boosted it. Amazing. But it was like, what did they get off the back of that? I don't think that they'd specifically had any more sign-ups to the app. I don't think we got any more followers from it. It was just like, we've had over 1 million views on this video, which great if that's what you're looking for. But I mean, off the back of it, did we actually get real results from it? I don't think so.
And Facebook is good if you set up an ad campaign and they ask you what your objective is. If it's reach, they can get millions of views for next to nothing. If it's traffic, they get hundreds and thousands of people going through to your website for very, very cheap, much cheaper than Google Ads. But neither of those will get you results. The last one is conversions or leads. Then they'll start getting to people that are engaged and are likely to actually generate some business. So the first two objectives, you know, reach and awareness, reach and traffic, it will get you that. But if you're expecting business out of it, leads out of it, then it's just not the right way to go.
Yeah, I agree, definitely.
Any more?
I had a question. Going back to what you were talking about Advantage Plus Meta, are there any, like, because there's loads more automations and setup now, like, are there any automations that you would avoid like the plague? Or are there like which ones are good and which ones are bad in your books?
So when I've used it before, so there's an option basically where you put all of your targeting in, whether like interest, location, age, all the usual. And then you can tick something that says allow Facebook to sort of go, well, Meta to go outside of this slightly and sort of advertise to people we think would like this based on what you've put. I always say tick that, yes. We've also done an ad where we've run it solely on Advantage Plus. So I haven't put anything in. They've just said, we'll take your Facebook page, your followers, and we'll just show it to people we think will like it based on everything you've put in. Now, the reach impressions, all of that was sort of the same, but we didn't really get anything off of that, what we were asking. I think we were leading people to the website and we weren't actually getting people to take the action we were wanting them to do. So that, I'm not yet convinced that I would just say, Facebook, just take over and do what you will. I think you still manually putting in what you want to target and then letting them sort of do a bit of hard work based on what you've put in. Same with like even the captions. You create the caption and then they sort of create variations of that. I think I think in my terms, it's like if it's assisting you, great. If they're just saying, let us do it, I wouldn't. That scares me, that does.
I think recently, just working on campaigns with you, I know it has been a constant put it in place, what we think works. We can add certain things like business data, add that to it, use that for targeting, use other interests, and it is constantly you tweaking it and seeing the results within a few days. I think Facebook Meta is much quicker in terms of getting the kind of a reaction rather than Google. You might be waiting about a week or two, but you literally within days you can see the change that you've made in Meta has made a difference in either the reach or the conversions or something, and then you can either tweak that back or add that to it, and it is constantly sort of playing around. I don't think you know, it's the same for everyone, is it? It depends on what.
No, it's not. No, it's not. I would say, I mean, back in the day when we sort of really started, you know, creating these ads for clients and things, it did feel like you could just, you know, go and do it. Here's the ad, let it run. And that was it. Sort of just keep checking in occasionally. Now it is more like it's you know, day to day, we're looking, tweaking, you know, putting multiple artwork carousels, whatever it is, multiple different ad sets for one campaign, seeing which one's performing the best. And it's a constant, it's like an everyday sort of checking in process now, tweaking audiences. Yeah, I think you have to put a lot more into it, considering that, you know, they're saying sort of we do a lot for you now. I feel like you know, you really have to be aware of the results day to day nowadays. I really do.
When you say results, it's always good, like if you're working on behalf of a client, is to get that kind of quality feedback from the client. Like we can see, wow, 70 leads in a week, this is incredible. But you've always got to get that feedback from the clients of what kind of quality are these, and then they can always give you feedback as well. They're okay, but they're hard to get hold of, or some of them have said this and that, the other, and then you can tweak the ads to try and, you know, improve the quality of that as well. So again, it's trying to find the balance in terms of quality, in terms of
it is, it's definitely like it's a process. I think that's probably like what we have to be honest with clients with. It is a process because obviously we deal with so many different clients in all sorts of industries, and it really isn't the same for all of them. Like I said, when looking at like this, the lead gen ads and the forms, high intent, you know, we're talking about an automotive business that just want as many leads as possible. They've got somebody specific that can go through all these leads, keep calling them until they get a business out of it. Whereas on the other side, where we're looking for more high intent form fills, that's for a finance company that sort of, you know, it's two guys running it. They're on it they're on it every day, but it is just them doing it. So they know they want more quality from it. So I do think it's like, it's a real process now with ads and clients really getting to know what the client wants out of it, who their audience are, in knowing what type of ad is going to be best suited to them. And again, I think we have to have a bit of a grace period with figuring it out, and then something clicks, and from then on it's just about tweaking it and maintaining it. Some are easier than others, some click a lot quicker than others. But yeah, it's a whole process now, I would say.
I've got one more question, it's my last one. Sort of tracking results. So I know there's one particular client, I think you might have mentioned that, you know, literally we started the ads. It was a bit of a mixture between Google and Meta, but we quadrupled their sales. And I don't think we actually spent that much more money. We took over the ads and we quadrupled their sales in the space of weeks. But we're trying to attribute where those sales have come from. Have they come from Meta? Have they come from Google? And Google is claiming more and social less. However, if you dig deep into Google Analytics and understanding what, so they do sort of the UK and the US, and where were I think a lot of the Meta ads were in the US. And
the US, yeah.
Their sales in the US dramatically increased by something like 50 or 100% or something like that. So even though Meta and Google Analytics didn't actually show the revenue was coming from Meta, you could just tell that the sales in the locality that those ads have been showing had dramatically increased.
Yeah.
So is that something you've always got to kind of second guess? You might have all the best tracking set up, but with cookies and even people's behavior. So they, you know, they might go to the, you know, see it on the website, but then they might just search for it in Google, that kind of thing. So there's, you know, it's not easy to track the return on investment. Is that something that you have to double down on? Yeah,
I think that's where we have to often play investigators, don't we, really? I think sometimes these platforms, they're too smart for their own good. They throw a lot of results. I mean, the one that sticks out in my mind for the automotive leads that we were looking for, in Ads Manager, it said they'd had 50 leads come through. Brilliant, 50 leads. Went into the lead center, which is separate to the Ads Manager, but still Meta. and there was actually showing, I think 70, it was like 20 more or something, and we couldn't believe it. And in the end, we had to literally click through these leads to see what time and what date they'd come through. So I definitely think you can't take it for face value with, I think, face and Google, as you say. I really think you need to do your own investigations, and I think what you said is key. It's speaking to the client, asking them where have they actually had success, are they decent leads? So I think, yeah, it's very much a back and forth, us playing investigator, asking the client for feedback, and then going from there. I don't think you can trust everything that Meta throws out for you at all.
I hear you. Any more for any more?
Am I out of the hot seat now?
Thank you very much, Alice. That was really valuable. There was loads to go on there, so really appreciate it, and look forward to your next one.
Thank you for listening.